Today we're going to need a bigger box as we look at Godzilla 1998. Hello everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia to find the movies of your past to see if they hold up. Here I am, Hold Up, with Kyle and Andrew.
I like that you said my name first. That makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, I just shed a tear because you left me second.
Well, you're ancillary. You're tertiary. You don't really matter to anybody.
My dad has told me that many times, so yes.
He said you're tertiary?
And ancillary, both of those words, yes.
That's good. I'm glad he has a well-rounded vocabulary.
Oh, he said some other things. They're quite colorful too, but we'll leave it at that.
All right.
How's everyone's energy level? Kyle, I'm looking at you.
Well, we've
Kyle,
upgraded from dog shit to dog piss.
The athletic greens really helped you, didn't it?
Yeah. That 5 milligrams of caffeine.
It boosted you.
Yeah, the mealy diarrhea taste at the back end really got me.
We have some weak-minded individuals in this podcast
or
here.
people that really just like texture.
We're also not sponsored by Athletic Greens, too.
We don't.
Sorry, it's not Athletic Greens. It's AG1 now. They don't even go by Athletic Greens, so we can keep calling it that.
We're not sponsored by AG1.
Oh, don't say that. Say Athletic Greens.
We're not sponsored by AG1 yet.
Shit.
That sounds like an MMA gym. I hate that.
We're going to go tumble a little bit. We're going to get down on the ground with some sweaty guys.
Are you guys ready to insult the entire nation of Japan on today's episode? Talking about Godzilla from 1998.
Yes. So I will say, I think what we're going to do is vindicate them a little bit in knowing that this was
not their doing.
This was not their doing.
This was not their doing at all. They
Andrew-
gave permission. They greenlighted it, but
Andrew and I both watched that movie last night, and we had to stop the movie multiple times because it's really bad. It's bad.
It was entertaining.
We watched it.
It was fun to watch, but not for the reason that you want it to be.
We're getting some early feedback.
Hey, that's just one simple-minded man's opinion, so we'll get to the others.
Very simple. I got an 18 on my ACTs, so.
Fuck yeah.
So let's go back. 1998. Kyle, you were a young lad. I was a young lad.
Yes.
Andrew was like a small fetus, I think, at that time.
6 years old, but more or less
It might
a fetus.
as well have been just a small toddler.
Let me get this out of the way and say I don't remember shit because I never watched it. So I'm new to this. So this is a question for Kyle and you, and I'll keep silent.
I didn't see it in theaters, saw it on VHS, but I do remember this was around the same time that the George Clooney movie when the boats, and they're in the boat. I wanted to say The Deadliest Catch. What was the one that...
Perfect Storm?
Perfect Storm. The same time that this came out. And I confused those two movies because we had watched The Perfect Storm at a birthday party when we were all 9 years old, 10 years old. And we were like, this isn't Godzilla. I didn't understand the relationships that were happening. I was waiting for the lizard to pop out of the water. But what I do remember, the marketing campaigns around it, oh my God. They had Taco Bell. That was the little Chihuahua dog. Yo quieres Taco Bell?
Fluent in Spanish, are we?
Oh, see.
Those commercials were great.
They were funny, and it made you want to go see the movie. It also made you want to eat Taco Bell, which I had never had until I was in college.
That little dog was about as big as Will Smith. I think everyone had the little shirts with the Taco Bell dog on it.
Did he have a name?
He did. He had to have had a name, or was it just Taco Bell Dog?
I don't think it was Taco Bell Dog.
But I mean, just collectively referred to it as that. I thought he had an. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I referred to him as I need a bigger box dog.
I need a bigger box.
I think he was trying to, for some reason, catch Godzilla in a small Amazon-like box.
Based on how the movie went, that logic will hold up for that.
The name of the dog was Gidget. I think that's the actual dog's name. That was like his actor's, like the actor's name, I guess you could say, if you want to equate it to something. But he was just known as the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
Talk about Chihuahua.
Chihuahua.
Yeah.
So Taco Bell dog, Taco Bell Chihuahua. Yeah, not really Gidget.
Yeah, I remember seeing those commercials first as a kid, and then I remember, again, Carson Daly at TRL and listening to Come With Me by Puff Daddy. It sounds very sexual. It was basically Cashmere.
Now, that's what... That's what we were listening to.
Yes.
And we were like, so why... All of a sudden, it's just playing in the background.
Played 2 or 3 times.
Played 2 or 3 times, shittily in the background. Why are they playing Cashmere right now? That's not Cashmere, clearly. And it's just the riff over and over again. And big Led Zeppelin fan over here. So I was a little pissed off about that. But now, that's good to know. I was like, well, Chase, that wasn't Puff Daddy, that was Cashmere. Good to know that he sampled that song and ruined it. So.
The Cashmere part of the song is obviously awesome.
It's great.
And
It's the best Led Zeppelin, one of the best Led Zeppelin songs.
But I remember, did you ever see the music video for that song?
No. I mean, yes, but no, I don't remember it. I did see it in passing.
So it is the funniest shit. From what I remember, it is him in all white, Mr. Diddy.
Naturally.
And he is in this skyscraper, hands on the glass, and Godzilla's walking by doing his thing. It turns into like a love song. And I don't know.
Between him and the giant lizard.
Giant iguana.
That goes hard.
Giant
man.
iguana.
That's legit, dude. Fuck yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, it was very weird, and I wanted to see it so bad.
It sounds
I wanted to
very 90s, though.
Yeah, it was. And he's just like, and the only dancing he's doing is just that spin move that Will Smith used to do in his music videos where they just like arms are wide open, Creed style, and then he just spins. And so it's like, that song was huge. Everyone played it. I actually looked it up. It actually charted on the Billboard Top 100.
What number do you remember?
Do you want to take a guess? Did anyone want to take a stab?
I'm going to guess number 5.
I was going to say like 8.
It's 4, so you were.
I was very
good.
close.
Right on.
Tell me I'm good.
Yeah,
You're
I
good,
was going to
Daddy.
be
Thanks,
very
Daddy.
upset if that song charted at number 1. I would have thrown up.
Yeah, but like what songs were doing well?
There were some good songs. Had to have been.
Yeah,
Nostalgically speaking.
Wasn't Sugar Ray around at that point?
Sure. Third Eye Blind.
Third Eye Blind. Well, they were earlier than that, though.
They were still a thing
They were
then.
still.
that was probably around the Astro Lounge.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
How could we forget?
How could we forget? Does anyone here have any like Godzilla fandom or love, or watch the movies when they were kids?
Not the old one.
No.
So if that's what you're asking. Because the only Godzilla that had come around would be the old ones or that one. We didn't have the new stuff that's starting to make a comeback now, which is palatable. It's fun. It's not like the greatest, but it's definitely not bad. I did watch Monarch on Apple, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, how was that?
It was entertaining. It was very entertaining. It was what you think it is. It's what you see is what you get.
Yeah, they're trying their hardest now to go back and rectify what they did in '98. As a kid, I remember they had late on Saturday nights, they used to have like Monster Vision, and TNT would show the old King Kong. They would show monster movies from the 50s and 40s. And I grew up watching those. And that's how I was introduced to Godzilla. And they were the shitty dubbed version. Oh, good. I watched all those with this just like allure of Godzilla. I used to stay up super late because we'd go to church the next day. My parents would tell me, hey, you got to be in bed by like 9 o'clock, and it wouldn't start till 9:30, 10 is when Monster Vision, I think, came on.
How'd you get around that?
I had a TV in my room. I just
Oh,
waited
you were
till my-
spoiled.
Damn.
Good for you.
It was
Never.
Good for you.
Never allowed having a TV.
Oh,
in my
really?
room. Never.
I say spoiled like it's a bad thing. I had a TV in my room growing up. Hell yeah.
It was the tiniest TV, so I think my parents were just like, yeah, put it in the room. It looked like a TV you would put in a car. It was so small.
I know what you're talking about. Like a 20-inch TV.
It wasn't even
not
20 inch. It was like maybe a 12-inch TV.
Right on.
It is a foot.
Yeah, it was
So-
basically a laptop.
Would you like sit in front of that, like inches from the
Yeah.
screen?
Absolutely.
Or sit in your bed and watch from afar?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of both, but I would sit I had a small room, so I'd sit with my back to the bed and just stay up all night watching Godzilla movies. My mom never figured out why I was so tired the next day.
Interesting. I did that with Pokemon.
Yeah.
I was able to sneak that. I did that.
Yeah, I guess it's a little Game Boy.
Little
Put
Game
in your
Boy.
pocket.
Good luck.
Put in your
Good luck
pants.
finding
you know,
it. Put it in my
whatever.
pants. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like it warm. You know what I mean.
Early Godzillas were different than the middle and the later years where they kind of got a little bit more campy and action heavy. And the first ones dealt with a lot of different cultural significance in
That's
Japan.
the thing that always interested me about Godzilla because correct me if I'm wrong, but it came about after the aftermath of World War II in the 1950s and 60s after the nuclear bombs had been dropped on
Nuclear repercussions.
I think at that time I was more into like the Cartoon Network, Toonami kind of thing. Like that was really like where the imagination was like getting a lot of stuff from and Star Wars.
In
That
the
was about it.
80s, they didn't have that many like channels to surf through. So they didn't have Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network,
It's
like
the basics.
yeah, the basics, and a lot of times it was like Turner Classic Movies,
Or Rugrats.
Yeah,
Reptar.
Reptar.
That was honestly like my first introduction to Godzilla was Reptar, because that's a direct relation, a direct reference, or is a knockoff of Godzilla. So I'm very much outside looking in compared to you, especially Chase.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm just.
So we've established that for Chase, this one hits close to home. And
Yeah,
I think the anger is going to come out at some point in Chase, because I'm not as close to it. I do understand a lot of the social implications for why it was made and why it was so successful and what it was about. It's very special to Japan and what it went through after World War II. Talk about a country that's been through a bunch in the last 120 years. Like, they, pre-World War II, were essentially a medieval kind of culture that got very quickly industrialized around the turn of the 20th century and immediately started producing weapons and manufacturing weapons and starting to push other countries out and became much more war-focused than everything that happened in Europe and everything that happened after World War II, to have that gutted and ripped out because of two unprecedented weapons being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Cities essentially being
obliterated.
destroyed. Yeah.
I don't know shit about Japanese culture, so I'm not going to act like I do. But outside looking in, look what they have accomplished. And look what this media has brought about and to help them deal with the pain of all that stuff. And then look at this dog shit that they came out with in 1998 that completely just fucking sucker punches it in the mouth and just
smacks him across the face.
I was so stoked, though, as a kid, because watching all those movies, even the dubbed over version, I was so into it. On nights when they come on earlier, or we'd have them in the day, because they did play at certain times. They didn't just play late at night. My dad would watch them with me. So it was kind of like a very special time to see those movies. And I remember seeing that first commercial. I was like, holy fucking shit. I'm getting a Godzilla in theaters. I couldn't be more excited for Godzilla as a kid. A lot of the other kids I went to school with were like, yeah, it's just a movie about a lizard. And I was like, shut your mouth. You don't understand. Yeah, I stayed up many a nights watching these movies.
Many a fortnight I spent.
We went 3 times. My parents
Shit, 3
took me
times?
to see this movie 3 times.
Your parents are saints.
Well, they traded off. It came out around my birthday.
One of them had to go twice.
Yeah, my mom went twice. Saint, if she's listening, which she's not, but if she was, it was. I owe her a new house.
I could not. You could not pay me to watch this movie again. The price had to be very right, though.
Andrew, this movie was released when, and what did it do in the box office?
It was released on May 20th of 1998. Opening week, it generated $44 million.
Wow.
That proves, kids, marketing is king.
It is.
Training of the monsters.
It is.
Domestic altogether, 136 million. International was 243 million, and then worldwide 379 million. All decent numbers there. Here's the thing, though. The marketing budget was 80 million or so. Production budget was 130 to 150 million, and it still grossed 379 worldwide. Third highest grossing film of 98. So impressive numbers.
Well,
And I'll add on to the reason for that, too, because this also, I don't think we mentioned it. I said earlier, this is the first Godzilla I watched in theaters. This is the first Western-created Godzilla.
Correct.
This was a huge thing. This had never been done before. And we're doing this podcast on Godzilla because it just celebrated 70 years. How many generations have gone by and we hadn't seen a U.S. version, and in 98 was the time for that to happen. Toho is very strict, and they were for a very long time. And the backstory behind this is there was another script. I can't remember what the 2 guys' names were, but they had written a script that Toho liked, and they really wanted to do that for the U.S. version. They approved it and everything, and then Roland Emmerich walks in.
Mr. Roland.
And
legend.
Right off the heels of that classic Independence Day, he and another executive producer, I don't even want to mention his name because I can't remember it mainly. But yeah, it's convenient. They'd been approached about this movie, and again, he's probably at the hottest he'd been as a director, I think, at that time. He was the Michael Bay of that time period.
Definitely tracks
time.
hard.
They said no originally. So what do you do when someone says no, that they don't want to make a Godzilla film because they think it's stupid? Which is not a quote of what he said, but he did think Godzilla wasn't something he ever wanted to touch because he didn't think it was worth his time. And it's fine, too. If that's not your speed, it's not your speed. You're not going to approach a director that says, hey, I'm not doing action films, and like, hey, why don't you do this action film for me? He's going to be like, no, I don't want to do an action film. I'm going to do this. And they're like, no, seriously. Here's some more money. Why would you do that? And that's exactly what the U.S. did to get Roland Emmerich in. And he decided to do it. The first thing he does is take the two guys' scripts that Toho was like, yes, this is what we want. And goes, no, that script, out the window. We're not doing that. That's
Boy,
stupid.
can you tell.
He decides he's going to get really arrogant about it. Like, he's like, if we're going to do Godzilla, we're going to do it my way. We're going to do it the U.S. way.
The American way.
Completely unrealistic and fucking dumb.
Yeah, and they changed the Godzilla design. He wanted it to be more lizard-like.
Well, they made it a fucking dinosaur. I mean, it's a fucking
And
Tyrannosaurus
I'm sure
Rex.
When they finally were done and showed Toho executives this movie, they got about, I think, 30 minutes in, and they all walked out.
Good.
And some of them had tears in their eyes of saying that you've ruined Godzilla. Like and even in Japan, that made them greenlight a new Godzilla movie quicker than they wanted to, just to get this taste out of their mouth. I don't blame those Toho executives at all. And especially something that sacred to them. Yeah, walk out. And in Japan, that version of the film, they took God out of it and just called it Zilla.
Wow. We don't want to. We can't call it the same thing.
I wonder if anyone lost their jobs there for agreeing to share those rights or give those rights to Hollywood.
It was the entire company decided to do that. It
was a unified.
I think they were just like, yeah, no, and that's why we didn't see another Godzilla until 2014.
Way later.
Ladies and gentlemen, did 1998 Godzilla hold up? Kyle, lead the way on this one. How do we open this monstrosity of a movie? No pun intended.
Well, friends, we got to have a really shitty montage, okay? An atrocious montage, glossing over a lot of history, which is nuclear history shared between numerous countries, but primarily the United States and its allies, happening in the Southeast Pacific. The montage essentially, you see an atoll, you see a couple island chains, you see a bunch of nuclear tests, you see a bunch of bombs going off, you see some lizards. Let me just go ahead and stand up on my fucking chair and say that the iguanas that they're showing are from the fucking Galapagos Islands, which are on the other side of the fucking world.
In the Indian Ocean. No.
Those are
is the Pacific off the South
It's
American.
off the South
right,
American
correct.
coast. I can't stress enough how fucking dumb that is. It's cheap B-roll that they got that they didn't have to spend money to get, and they just made it was a very cheap opening. As a kid, you're like, wow, this is okay. I see there's lizards, and then the nuclear test made the lizards bigger. That's not how that has ever worked. You wouldn't get a giant fucking lizard from it, but we'll put that aside for a second. That's the opening. That's the first 5 minutes.
And I want to add, Godzilla is a representation in Japan of basically coming out of nuclear war, right? What does that look like? Are we mutated? This is a terrible thing. Godzilla is a big metaphor. And a lot of people laugh when they watch the old Godzilla movies because it is a human in a suit on a soundstage walking around. And it looks hokey when you see it these days. But that was a choice. One, they didn't have special effects, obviously. But the idea of the person in the suit is it makes Godzilla human. And it makes the whole country emphasize with him that, hey, this could be us. And so we open this movie with, and did anyone else laugh at the fact that we have all this like historical war footage, and then next thing you know, there's just this dumbass lizard looking up with his eyes glazed over, and then it like zooms in on this egg. And I wrote down in my notes, like, Godzilla from an egg.
That's what I said. I looked at Andrew. I was like, so the egg got a nuclear blast near it, and the nuclear blast didn't destroy it, but it's mutated it now to be gigantic. Did the blast create the egg?
You can't just throw that in there and be like, there it is. There's your backstory. But this movie's almost 2.5 hours long, and you couldn't do a better backstory.
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to a 2-minute montage
A cheap 2-minute
felt
montage where
longer
we
than 2
spent.
minutes.
How much was the budget for this, Andrew?
180 million plus
and you couldn't
40
spend an
million
extra
on marketing.
$5 on a nicer opening montage.
They spent $40 on that.
Absolutely they did.
And the openings, I put the opening music is way too epic for that montage
Oh,
too. It's like
way
this-
too
Dumb. It was just. It was. I can't talk about it anymore. I'm getting too fucking heated.
All right, and then where do we go next, Andrew? You got your finger on the dial there.
Don't they jumped Ukraine? Don't they?
No. The ship happens before that. Remember?
That's right. You're in the South Pacific.
Yes,
Literally just South
yeah.
Pacific.
This was getting Andrew a little tied up last night. The jumping.
You have the captain or whatever sitting eating his noodles, and he sees something on his sonar.
Which I get. Okay, this is what I couldn't figure out. They were a fishing vessel, yes.
They were
They're
something.
They were processing fish. Very shitty fit. I don't know what they were pulling out of those tuna blue. Who the fuck knows? It
That looked like fucking
sausage.
sea bass.
Like, so and then Chilean sea bass, but whatever. I was trying to discern why the fuck they had a sonar on the. I didn't know if they is that what they used to check for fish to see if there's large.
It
groups of
feels like
fish
a very
around?
like a submarine
Maybe.
thing,
That's what I'm saying,
not a
like,
fucking
and the-
fishing vessel.
It's very lazy writing, everyone. You just add a lot of context clues that don't need to be there. Like, hey, we're a fishing vessel, but there's something big underneath us. But how do we show that?
It's getting closer.
Well,
It's
let's-
getting closer. What's gonna happen?
Do we do it with our, $125 million budget? No, we'd show a blinking radar sign.
It's essentially just a computer program that they made to look like that because sonars don't actually look at that or do that.
Yeah,
They're
no,
much more
not at
boring.
all.
No, they're much more boring.
What kills me is the tail goes through, right? The tail goes through the captain's area and kills like 8 people, and then it just dramatic cuts to Ferris Bueller like hanging out
in Ukraine.
in Ukraine.
Not at any place in Ukraine.
Chernobyl.
And he's got his headphones on. He is singing happy-go-lucky. We go.
I'm happy again.
He's singing his Broadway tune.
It had to be intentional. When you go
A little too
that-
intentional.
Yeah, and it's not where it should be intentional.
Gives a fuck.
But it wasn't like we just watched this dramatic, historical creature. Like, you don't see Godzilla.
No.
But you're watching the scene of like, holy shit, here comes Godzilla. Like, as a kid, like, I'm sitting there white knuckling on the seat. It's like, oh, he's here. And then you just fucking go to this
Quick
twerk.
ban to Broadway star Matthew Broderick.
Broderick, and
I can't take him seriously. I don't know about y'all, but like he's just
Not in that movie.
I mean, he has such a punchable face too.
He doesn't. His voice is just so annoying.
And he really hammed it in this movie.
It was like he was acting for the stage or like a musical. That's literally what it was like. It was very much a stage character thrown into a mega blockbuster.
Godzilla the musical.
The Lost World Jurassic Park shines through heavily in this. Heavily in this.
Yes.
Of military getting involved. Well, not necessarily military, but military-esque people getting involved, mercenaries getting involved in things, muddling the waters. And it could have, this is why I was like, it could have been done so much better than this.
Here comes an unsanctioned government helicopter to come in. And
Unsanctioned.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. This is what we were talking about. Like,
who came out of that helicopter?
It was a
Kyle?
bunch. It was a bunch of Russian
Russian
soldiers
soldiers.
who, at the time, this is 1998. The Berlin Wall had fallen 8 years prior. Who the fuck are these guys? All right, with an undisclosed American escort with them.
like it's like the CIA.
But we haven't even got to the best part because they're dropping into the exclusion zone in Chernobyl, and Chernobyl's in the background, which means that they're miles away from it. Do you know one thing you probably shouldn't do in Chernobyl? Is not go in there with protective gear.
Say, don't walk
and
around
then
without,
whip up a hole in the rain. Okay, when this shit's getting kicked up, and then bring in a chopper to whip up all the radioactive dust to blow in your fucking face. Great job.
That was so dumb. Where did they go next? Did they go to like a village?
They took him to, where was it? Somewhere in Central America, Panama.
Panama. They took it to Panama. Or no, was it Jamaica?
No, they went to Panama first, then Jamaica, because he's
Yeah,
making his way.
that's right.
We haven't got to this part yet, but he's making his way to New York.
It wasn't very obvious because they went to Tahiti, brushed to Panama, and then to Jamaica. That's kind of how it went.
And it didn't make the trajectory doesn't make any sense. They get to Panama.
And how did they find him so quickly?
That's what I'm saying. This is before GPS. This is, well, not really, but kind of. Like,
But, like,
they didn't have.
Yeah,
and the resources just. Well, Well, you're being reassigned. Who's reassigned? Is he just a lone scientist?
He was in a shitty truck driving through Chernobyl
By himself.
which is like. how did they find him? Like, I know our government is capable of a lot of things that is really shady, especially in the black ops market, but like, that was so quick. And
They wouldn't have teamed up with the Russian military or Russian government.
There's just stuff that's not lining up for me.
we're just with the tip right now. We have not
Just the
gone
tip.
full
We haven't
insertion.
gotten
Only the
full
tip.
insertion yet. No.
And at that point, they go to Panama. He's asking all these questions. They're not really answering it from what I remember. And then he was standing in a footprint.
Here's your sample.
Here's your sample.
Here's
And,
a sample for
and
that.
he was so fucking stupid. Like, how do you...
I don't understand. Where's my sample at? Where's the sample? Pan out. It was a great. Andrew said it was a great pan. It was a great pan out. It was really good. Really
Neat.
well done.
Really neat.
Really good. Quality filmmaking. Piss poor writing. What the fuck? Like, also, what DNA sample are you going to get? Forgive me, scientist, biologist. I don't. Maybe I'm a fucking idiot. But like, what would you get from a footprint? What DNA would you extract?
I was thinking... I don't know why they brought him in there, but I was like, did Godzilla just run through a worm's nest or something? Like, I don't even know if worms
How
even
is a
nest.
supply?
Like, but I thought he just like there was a bunch of worms there that Godzilla had stepped on, and he was going to somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was there.
Because he was studying the effects of how nuclear radiation,
Nuclear radiation.
like irradiated animal, like what it has of the effects on animals, which I'm gonna say right now, I don't think they got that right either. Ionized radiation just destroys your cells. It doesn't have a boon for anything. There's not like, it's not you're gonna make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or fucking like X-Men out of it.
I don't think even the footprint matched Godzilla's feet.
There's no way, because it was a very clawed, curled.
Guess how many lizards walk like that? Fucking zero. None of them do. None of them do.
Then we get my favorite scene as an adult, the lighter.
Oh my God.
This was so bad.
So for the folks at home that haven't seen it in a while, enter this French doctor, which we'll get to. He's
Or
not
insurance man.
Jean
or
Reno.
whatever.
Jean Reno.
Jean Reno.
John Reno.
He enters this hospital, and I guess it's one of the guys from the fishing vessel.
In the South Pacific.
In the middle of South Pacific. South
South Pacific,
Pacific.
yeah.
South
So
Pacific.
now we're back in the South Pacific, and he sees this old man on this makeshift hospital bed. I don't know if they're in a hospital. They kidnapped this guy and took him to this warehouse to extract this information from him. And this guy's like comatose. He's so in shock from what he
got
saw.
Something.
He wasn't
He's
responsive to
PTSD,
anything.
completely unresponsive.
Yes.
Just like not even aware of his surroundings.
But what do we do in the medical field?
You take a lighter
and you shine it in front of somebody's face very closely.
and move it left to right.
just like they're a lion who's never seen it before in their entire life. And
that'll
you
that'll
extrapolate
awaken.
information.
That'll awaken them.
The old fuck wakes up and says, Gojira. And it gets this dramatic music, and you see the French doctor's head tilt like a dog when you open a food bowl. And he's like, oh no, Gojira.
That rat bastard. He's
well-
back again.
Fucking A, man.
I was talking to Andrew about really quickly today. Godzilla is actually how you're supposed to pronounce.
What is it? Godzilla?
Yeah.
Godzilla.
You hear that Gojira in that movie, but in Japan,
Oh, phonetically.
it's phonetically Godzilla.
Godzilla. So we Americanized it incorrectly,
Incorrectly.
while trying to be culturally
Naturally.
appropriate. The intention was good, though.
Insensitive, perhaps.
And Toho accepts Godzilla because it's super close, and there's no way it translates into English without it being Godzilla. So the way that some of their language comes together, the way that they say Gojira sounds like Godzilla, and that's how it translated across. So
Interesting.
fun fact for the people at home,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it was probably the only thing that was accurate about Godzilla in this entire film.
Great.
But we flash forward. What happens next? I don't even...
I honestly, it's a blur.
It is because there's...
don't they go to New York at that
I think we
point?
start getting to New York.
And we see his Matthew Broderick's ex-girlfriend,
Okay, so but we
almost
don't...
wife.
Yeah, because he's on TV.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because so folks, like this movie jumps so much.
It
It is very hard to remember. And we watched it last night, completely sober.
We get them in a cargo plane. This is where I just completely fucking lost it.
I told Andrew this.
I think me and you are on the same page.
Cargo, do you have to rekindle
So,
my
like,
memory?
they're flying back from Panama in a fucking the storm of the century, and
a
they're in like a
hurricane.
hurricane
They're
plane.
in a B-52.
No, they're in a
shaking.
They're seeing a C-130,
Yes. Yeah.
which is a cargo transport plane, among other things, among other variants. They're in a cargo transport version. And what are they doing in there, Chase?
So they are sitting around this big ass table. No one has got a seatbelt on at all. Casually drinking coffee and looking under a fucking microscope at the samples that they just got from the footprint. What samples from a footprint could they have had? I don't know. The plane is not shaking at all. Completely still.
Stable.
Did anyone
Nothing.
proof this script?
Oh my God.
Like, this is something you would catch right away.
Right. It looked like a Delta flight in there. It looked like
Definitely
they were
not a
in,
Spirit flight.
Yeah.
Which it should have looked like.
Right. I think Spirit uses that exact same plane.
They might as well.
And they charge you for being buckled in.
We're gonna charge you for your seatbelt. It's $15 surcharge. You'll understand.
But I almost flipped my coffee table. I was like, this is
I
bad.
stopped the movie.
We
I
literally
paused
looked at
it.
each other.
I was like, in what world are they able to go through samples and sit around while they're not like jostling around? What
Without
fucking pilot would pilot through a goddamn hurricane and be like, yeah, this will be good.
They
This plane's gonna hold up.
contaminate their research. Like, they could ruin everything.
And also,
They could die.
they could literally die.
I understand the point of the sample scene because we're trying to establish the nuclear radiation and the creature. So I understand that, but I do not understand why you needed, like, even if you did the plane scene, why do we need the storm? It's just like dramatic effect that is not necessary. Like,
Unnecessary.
just have the normal
Regular plane.
regular plane.
We don't need. There was a lot of inclement
Cessna
weather.
would have been fine.
It was pretty much raining the entire movie.
I feel like there was
Almost
rain all the time.
entire fucking length of it.
Andrew, I don't know. You can tell me, but like, how often is it like that in New York?
I mean,
Days
it
on
rains, but it's not an everyday occurrence. It's just like anywhere else.
Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. Anyways,
It's not Seattle. It's not Ireland. It's not constantly
It's
misting.
not Mobile, Alabama. It's where we get that stupid ass scene, and then we're introduced to the mayor. And did anyone pick up on the mayor?
Oh yeah.
If you walk out of here, Hobbs, you're finished at Greenway Press. Finished.
With all due respect, up yours.
Yeah, up yours.
But did anyone catch who the mayor is supposed to be?
No, like Newt Gingrich.
Oh,
I don't.
Rudy
fucking know.
Giuliani.
No, I know this for a fact because I read it, knew it a long time ago, and so I was watching the movie to catch this. So the mayor and his assistant are Cisco and Ebert. That's why he does the two thumbs up all the time.
No shit.
Yeah, he does the two thumbs up, and he's
right.
very critical over everything.
Interesting.
I'm gonna sound very.
Roger Ebert, and they were film critics.
Oh, Roger
Yes.
Ebert.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, and so those two, and that's why they're like, "Do you want milk duds?" Like making movie references.
No shit.
So they were.
Oh, I never caught that.
Yeah, I didn't like his character too much.
Yeah,
so.
that was on purpose.
Andrew hated his character.
It makes
He
it
was
that much
dumb.
worse.
He was dumb.
Dumb as shit.
Dumb.
Logically, I get he'd be stupid, but not that dumb. Like
Not that-
by making your character so stupid and
Making really bad decisions the
Making
whole
bad
time.
decisions.
Like, I'm not going to do this because it's going to make the city look bad. What do you think the city is? That's a
Let the
Chrysler building.
citizens back in. We've killed them. There's nothing more to look at. Like, shut up.
I think we get our first taste of Godzilla, and oh my god, everyone, he looks like shit.
Not great. He's like a little cuck version.
Wait, the first scene in which we see him, do you remember there's that old man just sitting on the dock on the East River?
On the
or
dock of the bay.
wasting time. No, he throws out like a cheap, shitty like Shakespeare line and rod, like a $5 rod with one of those standard. What do you call the things?
It's a bobber.
bobber, red and
Come
white.
on, Eagle Scout. Let's go.
Sorry, it's been a minute.
Before you even get to this, too, because I want to back up a little bit. We're skipping a little bit of chunks, but
Doesn't matter.
We need to because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't fucking matter.
But it is relevant to this part. So before this, like we get another Godzilla sinking ship vessels. This was what I was talking about
Right,
earlier.
yes.
And he sinks 3 of them at once. Keep that in mind while we're talking about this old man on the dock of the bay.
Well, you see his bobber and his line get pulled, and it's getting pulled and pulled and pulled.
It's getting pulled
It's getting
out.
pulled out
By Godzilla.
by Godzilla.
By Godzilla.
is what it's implying.
And
But then,
this 88-year-old disease-ridden man is able to fend off Godzilla because he was able to pull back and twist on the knob.
He was.
This sea monster, this kaiju that has sunk 3 fishing vessels the night before at once, and this man has enough strength to be like, "Whoa, we got a big one!
But
I got a bigger one!"
That's not even where my anger lies. Like, he loses the rod, but then you see the monster coming towards you. So why was the line being pulled out?
If the monster's coming towards you,
Why is the line being pulled out?
I
Usually
tried to-
that indicates a fish swimming away from your rod, not towards you. So immediately I was just like, what the fuck are you riding? What are you doing
we
here?
tried to go. I stopped it and I tried to reconcile it. I tried to
didn't
make it.
work.
It didn't work. I was like,
work.
maybe his head is farther than the rest of his body that's coming up. And I was like, nah, no, that's not.
But I mean, and if this scene was written successfully, that old man, when that
Be
line
in the
got
water.
yanked, he would have been yanked about into the sun.
or the funniest thing that could have happened was, honestly, the simplest, funniest thing is it just gets yanked out of his hand and he goes, what? And then all of a sudden, a fucking kaiju pops up out of the water and he's like, oh, fuck me. And then it kills him. Also, the amount of carnage in this movie, we don't see what happens to people. What do you think the casualty count is by the end of this movie?
I mean,
That old man should have been a casualty.
he should have been the
Probably,
first
but
that
we don't
least-
know.
well,
We
not
don't
the
know
first,
because
but-
all we saw was him running away from the dock.
Yeah, but he made it off the dock, and
Yeah,
like,
but what happened after that?
he was like running so fucking fast for an old man. Like, there's no way.
Godzilla gave him a lot of time.
Yeah, to give
Too
him a
much
lot.
time.
This Godzilla is very sentient, apparently, with very little
And then-
like logical.
And Godzilla comes out of the Hudson. I guess that wasn't the Hudson.
They said East River, but that was the Hudson.
Yeah.
Because the East River's on the east side.
We're going to correct their shitty writing. So it was the Hudson.
It was
He
the
comes
Hudson
out of
Bay because it
Hudson.
was like the Statue of Liberty in Jersey was on the opposite side.
But so he comes out of the Hudson. We see him, which the way that Godzilla walked, Roland Emmerich said, "We're not going to put a guy in a suit that's stupid and hokey." But his character writing, very serious. So he shit all over Godzilla, and Godzilla just is smaller than what Godzilla would be, and
Much smaller. From all the other Godzillas that I've seen, he is infinitely smaller.
I thought he was pretty fucking tall.
I mean,
but
like,
I'm
he's
Godzilla
big,
ignorant
but he's
compared
not
to y'all.
like-
So
he's big, but he's not like. I mean, these kaiju monsters are
Massive.
taller than
like taller than like the
skyscrapers.
skyscrapers. Yeah. So
And they can just battle around with them and lean into him and
This
stuff. He's
Godzilla-
like tunneling. I'm a little burrow bitch. I'm gonna tunnel through this. And like he's just like hiding in buildings and stuff. Holy shit.
But then they like so as he's walking around the city, we go to the news station, which we're picking up on Matthew Broderick's, I guess, love interest in this, which I'm going to
former love interest who walked out of his life.
But as Godzilla's walking through, we see the news station where she works with her piece of shit boss.
Sexist. Very
boss.
sexist.
He had plenty of things he did that made him a piece of shit. We didn't need to do the whole add the sexual harassment in.
It's the 90s and it's written by dudes. So.
It's like beating you over the head. Hey, this dude is bad. You don't root for this guy. It's like, he's a news anchor. I wasn't going to root for him anyway.
Nope.
You could have made him look shitty in many other ways. Honestly.
As Godzilla's walking through, we see Barney.
I'm glad you put that up. I was gonna say that. I was like, well, no, that's good and that cute. It's Barney.
I wanted to shake Roland Emmerich and be like, hey, Godzilla is not a dinosaur. I don't care how badly you want this to be Jurassic Park 3. He's not a dinosaur. Stop it. You've missed the point. One, you made him iguana, which is stupid too.
But again, an iguana could never and would never walk like that because an iguana is a reptile. Okay? Guess what dinosaurs were? They were birds. They're non-avian dinosaurs. They were not reptiles. In fact, they were warm-blooded, not ectotherms. They're endotherms. And their bones were fucking hollow. And that's what would have enabled them to walk like that. We're going to start getting into stuff that like I can't.
You mentioned warm-blooded, and this is a completely different scene. Remember when they were talking about the heat-seeking missiles that didn't hit because he's cold-blooded? Oh my god!
Okay, we're just gonna talk about this right now. Heat-seeking missiles fired from any kind of aircraft are seeking heat that is hundreds, if not thousands, of degrees. And if it's not that hot, it's probably not going to go for it anyways. You're just essentially dry firing some fucking bullshit at something.
Godzilla somehow he is less destructive than the military in New York City. He's just basically walking around the city, not really doing a whole lot, and even doesn't even kill Hank Azaria, who has a camera out there trying to film Godzilla. Almost gets stepped on, goes between the toes. Lol.
It was so fitting. So fitting.
They,
They started to evacuate Manhattan, right?
yeah.
Why not Brooklyn? Why not Queens? Why not New Jersey or the entire New York City metropolitan? Why is it just confined to Manhattan when the dude can jump rivers and go wherever the fuck he wants?
I've never lived in New York. My brother lives in New York. I've been to New York multiple times. Andrew, you live there.
Yeah.
New Yorkers aren't going to just evacuate like that.
It's going to take that would take days.
Most of them will say, no, go fuck yourself. My rent's too high. I can't just, I've got to stay here.
You wouldn't be able to get rid of everyone. And to get 1.7 million people out of Manhattan in one given day, good fucking luck. That's not going to happen.
One street. 1.7 million people is like one street of Manhattan.
Dude, the Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel will be backed up for literally days. Right. You would not be able to make it happen.
And they evacuate after the first sighting of Godzilla. Animal, which is Hank Azaria's character, his girlfriend, wife, whoever she is hosting all of her city block into one house.
That stressed me the fuck out.
I hated that.
That stressed me out.
Why would you do that?
That
It's
toilet,
so annoying.
That toilet never stood a chance.
Nope.
Friends.
Yep.
R.I.P.
And yeah, it's so bad.
How many of those people are fucking serial killers or fucking just people who are
Weird. Just
petty theft?
weird.
Just like fucking
Dope
wiping their boogers on
slingers
shit.
and into illegal activity.
All right, narc. Okay,
And
No one would do that.
no one would
exactly.
do
Nobody in the right
that.
mind.
Not in fucking New York of
Like
all
they're
places.
they're
People
fucking
aren't that
cats
friendly.
or
This is not the
dogs.
fucking South where it's like,
People in the South don't even do that.
No, they
Much
don't.
Much less New York and
She was acting like they were fucking like
refugees.
yeah, I couldn't say no. I brought home another dog today.
Didn't the mayor refer to the people as refugees at one point?
Yes,
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
Bull
did.
fucking shit.
We skipped over this part, but I'll briefly mention it. So we get Matthew Broderick and his love interest. He's like, you never called, or she said you never called, or something. I can't remember. I glossed over it, but basically he's like, yeah, you left without telling me anything, and she was like, it was 6 years ago, Nick. Move on. And then he's like, okay, let's go get some coffee, and then they just
Tea.
or tea.
Tea, not coffee.
Can I make you some tea? In my beakers? I'm gonna make it in a beaker.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
And then we can do a little song and dance routine and go over the choreography in the background.
Because I'm a mad scientist.
And she is literally a piece of shit human. So
She is. A
Hey,
dog
no,
shit human.
she's a nice person. She's a nice person. Her friends even told her that she's the nice guy. Remember,
she's not.
and she
not at all.
would never
kept-
break through.
Stole the tape. Stole the tape.
Wait. She gaslit him right before Matthew Broderick bought a bunch of pregnancy tests too. I think that's important to note here.
Oh, I
Because
forgot
it's
about
going to
the
lead us into
pregnancy
something
test.
else that we're gonna discuss. That was just fucking bonkers.
Because the military's whole idea to kind of hem him in is just put a bunch of fish down in the middle of a park, and Godzilla, that goes awry.
What the fuck is he doing in New York? What is in New York that he needs? Why is he there?
yeah, he can get fish anywhere else.
We could rack our brains for the next 3 episodes trying to figure out how we go Godzilla in the South Pacific to fucking New York.
Why did they refer to Godzilla as he or him?
Oh boy, here we go.
Why? It was a pregnant.
Andrew, this was written by men.
I know, but do men get pregnant? They know they don't. So why the fuck?
I think that is one.
So here we go.
Yeah, we're not.
But there's so many other questions we could ask that are just like this. That all just
Yeah, that's what we're saying to the folks at home. It sounds like we're jumping around, but we're going plot by plot. This is what it is.
Chase has this written down. He's reading it. Okay, we watched this last night. I've never been more confused in a movie in a long, long time.
But it sounds like a lot is jumping around, but also nothing is happening either. The characters are all sarcastic, and they're all just forcing jokes in every line. It's like Penn and Teller as human beings if they weren't funny. Overall, we get Godzilla eating fish. It goes awry, and he runs, which is another thing I wanted to bring up. In the original Godzilla, he is destroying the city. He is the force. Nothing can stop him. In this movie, he is running constantly, and it is the biggest dick blow. If everyone can hear that, I'm doing the full-on
hand on arm,
fist
in the air.
Yeah, fist in the air, erect American thought process on Japan. It's like, oh yeah, you created this monster. Well,
we're gonna fucking kill it.
We're gonna fuck it up.
We're gonna blow it to smithereens.
Or as people in Alabama said, we're gonna tune that monster up. Tune him right on
tune
up.
him up.
Tune him up. They're constantly firing. Godzilla's running. and makes Godzilla this just weak. I feel sorry for him.
That's exactly. I'm glad you said that because like I was like I feel bad. This animal, essentially this one-off animal who can reproduce with itself as a hermaphrodite. Anyways, basically this animal's running around. We're like, here, you want some food? Here, you want some food? Fuck you, you piece of shit. Yeah. And then just fucking trying to shoot it with artillery and like.
While buzzing in and out of buildings and taking sharp turns.
Unfazed,
literally.
By any of the artillery, running around, and the military's just like, just keep firing. How many people...
That's what I'm saying.
They didn't evacuate everybody. Like,
no, they did. They got the entire city of Manhattan out, dude. Everyone's out. So
4
everybody
hours.
be calm.
Took 4 hours. So, but they were sending missiles into buildings, and then they blow up the Chrysler building, which
I thought that was pretty fucking
which was
funny.
honestly the best part of the.
We got to talk about the helicopters. I'm sorry, we got to talk about that. And Andrew needs to talk about the tunneling because let's talk about the tunneling.
I'm getting the
first.
tunneling. Okay,
talk about the tunneling first.
Here's the deal for those that haven't seen it. He burrows and makes his way through the New York like sewers and tunnels.
Chase, how akin to the other Godzillas is that?
Not even close.
Okay, great.
He lives in the Pacific Ocean
Because he's
off
fucking
the coast of Japan.
massive.
He is huge. He's the size of a fucking city himself. Why would he? No, okay.
So
Great, cool.
The underground of New York. When you think of New York City, you wouldn't think of this, but it is below sea level. It is prone to flooding. The subway stations constantly get flooded to the point where you can't even walk down the stairs because you go 10, 15, 20 feet into the ground and you're into fucking water. You are into water. You are not going to be able to dig through sewers and create and excavate your own tunnels other than the city.
I will say that's Pacific Ocean right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure of New York doesn't extend 200, 300 feet below the ground. They literally can't build into it because it's just fucking water.
There's points in the movie where they're showing him tunneling, and I swear to God, the tunnels under New York City extend into the Earth's core.
Not possible.
Andrew, let's entertain there's no flooding.
Okay.
What would happen if there were that many massive tunnels underneath all of those buildings?
Well, I think the buildings might collapse into the ground.
Do you think?
I
don't
think
know.
so. I think they probably would.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the Earth would fucking swallow the entire fucking city.
Kyle, helicopters, briefly.
Jesus
I know you.
fucking
I can see
Christ.
it in your eyes.
Oh my God! What helicopters were though? What helicopter pilots were those that were flying that close together? First of all,
Were those Apache helicopters?
they were
had
supposed to
to
be
have been,
Apache
yeah.
helicopters.
Yeah.
They weren't Cobras. They were supposed to be Apache helicopters. They were not. There was a fucking fighter pilot bushwhacking its way through the fucking city. No. The fact that they were that close together the entire time, you would hit each other and you would fly and die, friend. You would crash into a fucking building and murder yourself. No, never. And we're just gonna skip to the very end when they fucking get close to yeeting. Sorry, spoiler. Until they get close to fucking yeeting Godzilla, they ambush Godzilla, and 20 Apache helicopters appear out of fucking nowhere. Where were they? On the top of the buildings, landing on top of the buildings.
Flying through one of the most condensed cities in the world.
With less than a city block in between, these helicopters are feet from each other.
Perfectly
flying erratically,
spaced.
and then the ones in back are firing in between the ones that are in the middle and the ones in the like. How are there no like friendly fire casualties during this whole event?
So here's the deal: the city's being destroyed because of this crazy phenomenon of this giant fucking creature, and they're using all their military power to destroy it. But the mayor's worried about an election season.
It is an election season.
So we can't be doing this. Yeah. We can't be saving people. We can't be trying to get rid of a giant lizard monster because it's an election season. His votes might be affected.
Fucking get reelected.
Why? Like, that's not even funny. Like, even if that was trying to be comedic, it's not even funny.
After all this disaster, Bitch McGee takes the tape. It was supposed to be a surveillance tape. Right? It was supposed to be like somebody recording it, but it was the exact same footage of the cinematic version. So it wasn't any different.
No.
I can't.
Dude,
We'll just let that one go. But
you have
so,
to.
So she takes the tape. She's going to use this as her big break. And then karma strikes her down because asshole McGee Mr. Asshole McGee
her boss, her fucking
boss
prick
takes the
boss.
tape from her and breaks the story, which gets Matthew Broderick fired from the military.
Yeah, that he was somehow involved with in the first place when he was he's just a worm guy.
The military's trying to be all secretive, not that they don't have this giant lizard running through New York right now. So they're trying to keep everything hemmed in, and they do a horrible job of that because they blew up the Chrysler building. Enter French doctor guy who's not a doctor.
Or an insurance
agent.
He's not an insurance agent.
He's a covert French specialist.
From their version of their CIA, whatever.
They explain that he is there to protect the cover-up of France's
to cover up our
involvement.
mistakes that we made in French Polynesia.
That's
South
it.
Pacific.
That's it. You
South
now
Pacific.
know his whole backstory. That's what
There
they
you go. That's
And
it.
how did he make sure that they were covering up their malpractice and malfeasance? What did he do? What did he do? Do you remember? He placed that bug on the military officer's collar that he seemingly wore for the rest of the movie.
So he just listened
didn't
into
take shirts,
everything
yeah.
they said.
He was listening in to the United States military from the get-go.
And
Yeah.
so they take Matthew Broderick. They offer him a job. And they're like, we need you because, again, back to the pregnancy test. They think Godzilla's pregnant. I don't know
There's a
how.
nest. There's a nest. We have to discover.
There's a nest. Now we're trying to destroy the brood of Godzilla before you have, 150 other iguanas running around the city?
There's too many things happening at one time that.
But nothing also at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're just treading water. This movie just treads water the whole time. We're egg beating in
And
the
then it
fucking
ends.
deep end.
So flash forward, because a lot of shit that I think is just irrelevant happens.
Most of it's irrelevant.
But,
Most of the movie's
but they find the nest by going through the tunnels, and they find it, and it ends where? In
the
Madison
most famous
Square
arena
Garden.
in the world.
Madison Square Garden.
The epicenter of New York City, did
Which
you know?
this movie looks like it is filmed in winter. It looks like the Knicks should be playing a home game. It looks like it maybe I know you evacuated Manhattan, but again, you would still have like overseers still staying behind, or maybe even they use those centers for people that lost their home. Like arenas are used for that.
It wouldn't be empty, is what we're saying.
They got rid of the entire
but it-
island of Manhattan. That's
true.
But it
Don't
looks
forget.
like this has been like a day or two. And it looks like Godzilla's been staying there rent free for about 6 months.
Because the tunnels lead back to Madison Square
Yeah.
Garden. So.
Yeah, because it all straight up to Madison Square Garden.
Correct.
They go into Madison Square Garden littered with eggs. Eggs. Everywhere.
Hundreds.
So, Kyle, do you want to enlighten me how we're going to get rid of these eggs?
Well, we're going to nuke them, aren't we?
We're going to put C4 plastic explosive on every single egg.
This is a dumb fucking story.
Not that much C4. I know this is supposed to be the French government sending this guy, but there's hundreds of eggs, and you don't need that.
6 people to go around and place an explosive on each one.
Right, and you don't need that much C4. They were putting one on each egg. They were going to blow Madison Square Garden into the Pacific Ocean at that point.
On the other side of the fucking world. I kind of blocked that out of my memory because it's just so dumb. And it took so long.
But hey, what happened before they could blow the C4 up? What happened?
Didn't somebody have to die?
I mean, the things hatched. Those
They all start hatching immediately.
And what do they look like? What do those things look like?
Velociraptors, everybody. Mark another one for the Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I wrote this down because they're running around Madison Square Garden trying to get away from these little tiny velociraptors, also known as little tiny Godzillas, also known as little tiny lizards, also known as little tiny iguanas.
They're supposed to be dinosaurs, but they're not.
No,
We're
but
not
they're
gonna get
not,
into
but
that
they're
again.
supposed to be birds, and they're also not. But they're running around Madison Square Garden, and then they lock themselves in, trying to hide from them. There's some comical stuff with soda cans.
They lock a double door by placing like a
Piece of
broom
wood.
handle in between
And then
the
they- and then
handles. That's
Back to Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
Yep.
In the security room, in the original Jurassic
shit.
Park, where they try to lock it. The French guys are dressed as U.S. Army soldiers and acting like U.S. Army soldiers, even though they could have just went to the tunnel and straight up.
Yeah.
They had to get through a checkpoint.
They had to get through a checkpoint so he
to
could-
get to those tunnels.
And how do you act American? You chew
Chew
juicy
gum.
fruit.
Chew gum.
Not
And then you
just-
say, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Talk
much.
like Elvis. Yeah,
I
maybe.
put, I
Elvis Presley was the king.
I put in my
Whatever.
notes, juicy fruit is American, and then I put Elvis is American with a cute little flag on it. My notes were
Cute little flag.
Yeah.
Cute
But-
little flag chase.
Oh my God. While they're doing that, the military is trying to capture Godzilla by doing the same thing they did previously by loading up a bunch of fish.
Big fish!
Except this time they're like, why not Central Park instead this time?
Yeah, this time Central Park. We'll put it in the corner. We'll have a better shot at it.
There's probably not going to be an answer for this, but at the end, when they're about to get out of Madison Square Garden, they walk out to the lobby, and there are all these raptors. They're just, congregating in there. Why the fuck didn't those raptors just break out and break through the glass doors and go out into the city? Why did that happen?
Because the movie needed to go slower.
Matthew Broderick's girlfriend now, I guess they're back together.
They're getting close.
She finds the broadcast room in Madison Square Garden and is able to send out an SOS to everyone and saying, hey, this is what's happening. The military's trying to cover it up. No, they're not. They're actively not trying to find that nest because they don't think it exists. They're stupid. It's not they're covering up anything.
And they don't even know that the French government's spying on them.
She shows off the nest in Madison Square Garden, which alerts one of the military personnel who is what's his name? O'Neill, who is the only one
dumbest
who has
motherfucker on the face of the planet.
But he's the only one with a functioning brain.
But it's not even that functioning.
It's not that functioning.
Barely, like 5%.
And he has a speech impediment.
A light bulb goes on. And he's like, "Oh, we have to blow up Madison Square Garden." Which, I mean, the Knicks have been saying that for years. But
No, don't say that to Brittany Neal.
So they're deciding to blow up Madison Square Garden, and they get out just in the nick of time. You see what I did there?
Shut
you
up.
See what I did there?
Don't do that.
That was really cute,
Chase.
Chase. That was really cute. Good for you.
So they get out of Madison Square Garden as it explodes and kills all the little baby velociraptors. They
No, not all.
well, but that we think we're at the end of the movie here.
Oh, no.
Which we even passed on Godzilla.
We're still about, 20 minutes away?
We paused the movie. First of all, we paused it. We're like, okay, it's probably getting done. 50 minutes left? Kill me.
And also, we forgot to mention earlier, Godzilla was swimming in the Hudson.
Oh, Jesus, the submarine.
So while all this is going on, Godzilla ended up in the Hudson.
Can you look up how deep the Hudson
The Hudson
River is?
in that area is only about 40 feet deep. It's not that deep. You're not going to have a submarine in there, especially
an Ohio-class
not going to
submarine.
happen. Not going to happen.
Or Godzilla.
Or Godzilla.
Or him.
And there are parts of that Hudson that are only like 12 to like 15.
Yeah.
It's not deep.
So, and then we see Godzilla sink to the abyss after 2 torpedo rounds.
The abyss.
Which, keep in mind, they fired a bunch of artillery at him earlier, and he just walked it off like it was nothing.
Yeah, I'm just, it's not making a whole bunch of sense to me because he's tried to start digging. And again, it's like they're playing, like, I don't think they meant to do this, but like they made him seem like a trapped animal, which I'm like, now I'm rooting for Godzilla.
All this is going on at the same
Concurrently.
time. Godzilla, oh, he's dead. They're blowing up Madison Square Garden. The brood's done.
Done. We're cool.
Yeah, so
We're
you're
cool,
like,
right?
oh, we're good. And let's send this off. So what happens next, Kyle, is Nick and his girlfriend are about to embrace.
Here comes Godzilla again. He's alive again. We have to finish things off with our big old friend. He's absolutely fine. He just had a little rough up. He's now destroying shit. Then we get the swarm of helicopters that I was previously talking about that are, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. It's absolutely asinine. We get to the point.
I think we should use asinine for this.
Asinine. Might as well. We're getting to the very end of the movie, and we're just going to skim over everything. How do we get rid of him, Matthew Broderick? We got to find a suspension bridge. Where's the closest suspension bridge to get rid of him?
Matthew Broderick acts like he's never been in New York before. What's the closest suspension bridge?
Doesn't he live in fucking New York? Didn't he live there with his... Well, he had to because he had his beret on backwards, so he had to have lived in New York for a while.
There are a lot of berets in this
A lot of berets in this fucking goddamn movie. So dumb.
So they get
Look at
Godzilla
idiot.
trapped in this suspension bridge. Earlier in the movie, he walks right through a skyscraper.
Yeah, he's fine.
Just with nothing. And
No, Chase, it's because of the cables.
Oh, yeah, the cables.
Don't forget about the cables, baby.
The cables and the brick on the archway.
It's old brick.
Old brick.
Okay?
They
Oh,
came
that brick
down
hits different.
pretty quickly.
So he gets trapped in this, whatever, willing suspension of disbelief aside. He gets trapped.
Suspension.
You can kill me now. But he gets trapped, and then 2 or 3 Hornets, F-18 Hornets, F-18A or C.
Is that what they were?
Yes. They don't describe what kind. It doesn't really matter. It's pedantic to get into the fucking like what were they shooting? They fire the missiles, and these missiles are different, boys, because the warheads in these are smaller than the ones in the submarine, and probably the same size as the artillery shells. But it doesn't
pierce
matter.
him and go through his body.
Yeah, they go through his fucking body,
And they make him bleed instead of explode.
and they hit him from both sides, and it's just drawn. It's this long, drawn out death where you just see this magnificent animal that looks dumb as hell, just like die. It just dies.
falls.
And
Just falls.
Matthew Broderick doesn't show any emotion in this entire movie. He's very like stone faced.
He is. He's almost sociopathic.
This poor animal, this creature. Oh my God, let's take care of it. We see Godzilla die. The French guy steals the tape evidence
Stealthily.
somehow.
Says he'll send it back, edit it or whatever.
Right.
Which, how are you going to edit that back in that
Can't
time?
edit that. No. I mean, I'm trying to edit this podcast, and I find it really hard with today's modern software. And there's no way he edits that.
And
he's
then-
he's literally
gonna eat it.
And so the French guy walks off. We get the warm embrace of Matthew Broderick and
And
his girlfriend
Audrey, they
piece of
kiss
shit
and they're
girlfriend.
back together just
they're
on
back
a
together.
whim,
And what do we see? We see an egg. An egg in Madison Square Garden. Somehow,
That's
It
pretty much
It ends it. Well, the egg is there, and then a little Godzilla pops out, and it's like, "I'm alive, you little bitch." Thankfully, we didn't see any other media from this particular iteration,
And
because god damn,
And it's funny you mentioned that because they were going to make a sequel.
No.
And it got canned as quickly as possible. So, Andrew, you want to look up the Rotten Tomatoes score? I'm sure it's high. I'm sure this is certified fresh.
I know what the IMDb score is.
do we want to guess? Do we all want to place guesses on it?
I think we should.
I'm gonna guess probably a 3.8.
I'm gonna guess higher. I'm gonna guess like a 4.9.
5.4.
I think less of IMDb.
I think their decimals over a little bit.
Okay. Now we got to go with the tomato meter score here.
Chase, you go first.
It can't be more than 18%.
It's 20%.
Fuck.
The audience score 28%.
That is
abysmal.
That's 48% higher than it should be.
Yeah.
Damn. Wow.
So-
negative. This movie is
Trash.
If you want to watch this movie again,
It insults.
it insults iguanas and non-avian dinosaurs.
Right. It insults the Japanese. It's a disgrace.
It insults
to...
movie making.
Yeah.
To be honest
This-
with you, this is not good movie making.
And to reference, I saw this movie 3 times as a kid. As a kid, I loved this movie. And there was a short cartoon series that came out after it.
And that's what I was talking about before. Is yes, that cool. Was that Nickelodeon?
I think it was Fox. When
That
Fox
makes
had their
sense.
animated
Yeah.
series. Yeah. So, and that continued the story of this one. They were going to do a trilogy. They scrapped everything. Toho was like, oh, fuck no, you're done.
But this did make them enough money to do other things, which is good.
Yes.
I don't think any of this holds up. I don't think it's worth. You might as well just take what we say, listen to this, and don't watch it. We'll let you know if you want to watch it. This is not a watch.
This is a dangerous game. This is nostalgia playing tricks on you. Do not listen
Do
to
not.
it. Nostalgia is going to trick you here, and you're going to waste 2 hours and 17 minutes of your life.
Bad, folks.
So that's it. Does it hold up?
No.
No, it
And
does not.
there is nothing else that really needs to be said.
That's it.
doesn't.
Because
So-
it pissed me the fuck off.
Well,
I'm pissed. Pissed that we
I
watched.
have to piss right now.
It's knocked the piss out of Andrew. Me and Kyle are very upset. So, well, we just reached into your childhood nostalgia, pulled Godzilla from your past out, and found out it did not hold up whatsoever. We're about to go drink bleach now. See you later.